About what?
I can't believe I didn't realize it before! It's so obvious!
What is?
If it doesn't exist, I should just make it myself!
Make what yourself?
Make a club!
High school anime has been done a million times over, but for some reason, we keep coming back for more. Maybe it's because the majority of people had a shitty time in high school and want to watch something that they wish could have happened to them while they were in high school, or maybe it's because there's just so many school life anime that you can't go without watching at least once in your anime career. Which is why we're talking about the Melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya, a show about an eccentric high school girl who wants to live in a world full of supernatural happenings. To counteract this, we have Kyon, except that's not actually his name, but rather a nickname. His real name's actually, but for now we'll just call him Kyon. Kyon is the opposite to Haruhi in that he's very much grounded in reality. Sure, things like aliens, espers, and time travelers would be awesome to experience, but he knows that none of them actually exist. After engaging in some small talk with Haruhi, she tells Kyon that she wants to form a club, the SOS Brigade, otherwise known as the Spreading Excitement All Over the World with Suzumiya Haruhi. While their main goal was to discover supernatural happenings in the world, it quickly turned into a "what does Haruhi feel like doing today" club. A few new members joined, Yuki Nagato, Mikuru Asahina, and Itsuki Koizumi, and the show becomes your typical school life / slice of life show with a few supernatural occurrences here and there to spice things up a little bit. What really made the show stand out to me were the supernatural aspects because it's not over the top, barring a few scenes here and there. As we get further along into the show, we're being fed more and more information, namely about Haruhi. I mentioned before that 3 new members joined the club, but it wasn't by chance, to an extent. Let me explain. Nagato, Asahina, and Koizumi are all supernatural entities. Nagato's an alien, Asahina's a time traveler, and Koizumi's an esper. They each belong to a different organization, but they were all sent to observe Haruhi. To Nagato, Haruhi is the answer to auto-evolution. To Asahina, she's responsible for a distortion in time, and to Koizumi, she's seen as an omnipotent, that's a really hard word to say. Basically, she's God, alright? The thing is, all 3 of them were something Haruhi wanted to experience herself, and they all came in the form of an alien, a time traveler, and a mysterious transfer student. It didn't have to be these 3 specifically, because it was just a coincidence. Basically what I'm saying is, she wanted aliens, espers, and time travelers to be real, so she just made them real. The catch is, Haruhi doesn't know that she has these powers, nor is anyone allowed to tell her, or else the world will basically shit itself. Oh yeah, whenever she gets bored or her mental state becomes unstable, that basically signals the end of the world because she's gonna create an entirely new one by destroying the one she's currently in. But enough about that. The show revolves around Haruhi and what Haruhi wants to do. One day, we're out looking for strange phenomena around the city. Next thing you know, we're participating in a baseball tournament to promote our club. Or how about we make a movie and become big shots in Hollywood? Really, nothing is off limits for Haruhi, which is very in line with her character. She realized at a young age that things she thought were unique to her were really just everyday things to everyone else. She was just one small speck in the grand scheme of things, which really made her anxious. Surely there had to be someone in the world that wasn't ordinary, but that day hadn't come for a long time. This explains her eccentric personality and her bossy, albeit borderline abusive attitude towards others. She doesn't want to sit around and wait for something cool to happen. If it won't come to her, she'll just have to do it herself.
And then I had another realization. I realized fun things wouldn't come my way just by waiting for them. I thought when I got into junior high, it was time for me to make a change. I'd let the world know I wasn't a girl who was happy sitting around waiting. And I've done my best to become that person.
And it's not a bad outlook on life at all, except it does lead to a lot of carelessness on her part. She has little to no regard for safety and kinda sorta drags her team down with her, no ifs, ands, or buts. Unfortunately for Asahina, she tends to take the brunt of it all. During the Sigh of Haruhi Suzumiya arc, Asahina was subjected to embarrassing costumes, shot lasers out of her eye, thrown in a lake, and drugged, all per Haruhi's request. This didn't sit well with Kyon, nor with me. I really felt Kyon's anger in this scene because we were shown Asahina just dying of embarrassment, and Haruhi did nothing to apologize.
Don't you talk to me like that! Who do you think you are? This This is called story, and it's important for my movie. Get it now?
It's not important! Know what? This sucks! Miss Asahina is not your toy!
It was a moment that was building up and up and up until it finally happened, and once it did, you're gonna be like, finally, Jesus! All the while, if you hang out with someone long enough, they're eventually gonna rub off on you, and that's what definitely happened to Kyon. Kyon is a much needed person in Haruhi's life. If she was truly responsible for pretty much creating Nagato, Asahina, and Koizumi, I feel like Kyon was there to serve as her conscience of sorts. Although Haruhi really wants aliens, time travelers, and espers to be real, she's still practical and knows that they don't actually exist. I feel like Kyon is a manifestation of that side of her, as he's really the only one questioning her activities, reasonings, and actions.
Wait, what if she really does make Miss Asahina fall off a cliff? You should fall off instead. Why don't you wear her costume and be her stunt double?
He's also the one she seems to trust the most, so I don't think it's too far of a stretch. Kyon also plays a pivotal role in helping the other club members, because he alone seems to be the only reason why Haruhi is the way she is. Either way, Haruhi has made a huge impact on Kyon's life, as he's shown to be a bit more enthusiastic about the strange occurrences in his life, which I'll get to later. If there's two things this show is known for, it's the complicated watch order and the endless 8. If you thought navigating through the Nasuverse was complicated, the anime for Haruhi Suzumiya isn't actually that complicated comparatively, but it's still pretty confusing if you're watching it in its original release order. Events are going to be out of place, and it's not going to be a fun time overall, considering the show likes to have a lot of foreshadowing to things that will happen later on. That's why I watched it in chronological order, but the downside to this is that the show is split into 2 seasons, so you're going to have to do some bouncing back and forth. I've taken the liberty of listing both the watch orders in the description box below for your convenience. Now, with the Endless 8, it's hands down the most infamous arc in the show and one of the most hated arcs in anime. It's essentially the same episode played 8 times. 8 separate times, mind you. If you were watching the show weekly, you'd have to sit through 8 weeks of the same damn thing. Over and over and over. I mean, yeah, the first 2 episodes sort of set up what's going on, and the last part serves as the conclusion, but that's still 5 episodes of the same thing. And you bet your ass I watched all of them just to see if anything significant happens. The plot goes like this. It's nearing the end of summer break, and the SOS Brigade, aka just Haruhi, wants to make the most out of it. So she makes a list of what she wants to do before school starts back up. Go swimming, go to a festival, bug catching, part-time job, stargazing, batting cage, fireworks show, fishing tournament, test of courage, movie, beach, bowling, karaoke, and bird watching. Phew. But there's still one thing. One more thing she wants to do. And until she does it, she wants to relive that portion of summer break. Aside from a few scenes getting cut out depending on what part you're in, the loop count, and the slight changes in dialogue, nothing really significant happens. You're just going to be shown the same select scenes go on and end off with Kyo not knowing what Haruhi wanted to do. Of course, I'm not going to tell you what she wanted to do. I encourage you to watch it, or don't. It's really up to you. Just be sure to watch the first 2 and the last episode of the arc. Up until now, the show's really been fun and games for the most part, but all the events in the show culminate in the 2010 film, The Disappearance of Haruhi Suzumiya. As the title suggests, Haruhi suddenly disappears from Kyon's life, along with all the other supernatural occurrences. This means that the Nagato, Asahina, and Koizumi we've all come to know have all been erased without a second thought. While all these characters still exist, they don't retain any of the memories or the powers they once had. Simply put, Kyon was now living in a totally normal world. And that's all I can really say without spoiling the damn thing, so if you want to avoid spoilers, skip to this timestamp right here. Although the film is called The Disappearance of Haruhi Suzumiya, there's quite a bit of emphasis placed on Yuki Nagato. Nagato is a humanoid interface who is shown to have amazing powers, but she's also shown to take on loads upon loads of information from what appears to be all points in time, past, present, or future. She's also the one Kyon relies on the most to get out of hairy situations, so you can imagine his surprise when he finds a version of Nagato stripped away of any superhuman abilities, but in exchange, a version of Nagato who seems to have emotions and not just this robotic personality, She's now just your run-of-the-mill quiet, reserved bookworm.
Sorry to bother you.
When Kyon manages to get back to the original world, it's revealed that Nagato was the one who altered space. Nagato knew that error data was going to affect her behaviors and that there was no way of stopping it. This caused her to distort space and thus be the catalyst for the entire film. However, what she was experiencing wasn't error data. What she was experiencing were emotions. Deep down, she was tired of it all. Haruhi's antics, saving Kyon and the other club members, along with all the other things she had to deal with behind the scenes. It was only natural for her to want to feel something. She'd never had a say in anything and just had to go along with it. And a contributing factor was none other than the Endless 8. Although we were under the impression that Summer Vacation only looped 8 times, in reality, it actually looped 15,532 times. And Nagato was the one who kept track of all the little things the group had and hadn't done. 15,532 times over. Experiencing something that many times would make anyone go crazy, and for Nagato, this was sure to have pushed her over the limit. Knowing all of this, Kyon now has to make a decision. Does he want to stay in a world where he can live a normal life, or does he want things to go back the way they were? The choice was up to him. In a brilliant display of realization, Kyon chooses to go back to the way things were. Although it may not seem like it, he really enjoyed the time he spent with everyone in the club. A life full of uncertainty and supernatural occurrences, it'd be criminal to pass up a life like that. Sound familiar? But just before Kyon was going to reset the world, this happens.
Kyon, watch out!
Huh?
I think anyone watching this for the first time would be in just complete shock as to what happened. Hell, I sure was when I first watched it. Maybe this was foreshadowing from part 4 of the Melancholy arc, but at the same time, probably not. Either way, everything does go back to normal. The Disappearance of Haruhi Suzumiya is one of my favorite anime films of all time, simply because of all the build-up that took place, and all the subtle foreshadowing that you wouldn't think would be important in the grand scheme of things, when actually they mattered in some way, shape, or form. The movie also focused a lot on the relationship between Kyon and Nagato, and not so much Haruhi. Although she was the main reason why he wanted to go back to his world in the first place, this incident really made him realize how important Nagato was, and that he's taken what she's done for granted without actually seeing her as a unique human being. The Melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya is, dare I say, a classic. Sure, it has some rough patches, namely in the Watch Order and the Endless 8, but if you can look past all that, you have just a wonderful show and a rather unique experience that you won't find anywhere else. And that's all I have to say for this video. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like and a comment down below on your thoughts on the series. Also, if you enjoyed the video, subscribe to my channel. This has been Kiri. I'm very tired and very dehydrated because I didn't bring any water to this recording session, but hey, see you next time.